from this experience, so from writing 14 books until you got a bestseller, tell us a bit about that persistence, because it's a passion. Like you said, you see yourself as an author, but a bit of that trajectory when you did your first book and when you actually kept doing even if it didn't work. Because I think a lot of people, first of all, people listening to us, I think there's a common say that people in life have to write a book, have a child, and plant a tree, or have a child probably first, write a book second, and have a tree third. But when it comes to reality, is that a lot of people really don't try and they are not persistent enough. So, what made that persistent on you, and as well that generosity of persistent, but as well of then working with a lot of authors besides yourself?
That's an excellent question. So if you go and look at my first 15 books, they were subject oriented. They were focused around what I was doing a lot of speaking and consulting on at the time. And so they seemed like a natural flow of outpouring of content from my speaking, consulting, workshops that I developed all this material. So I might as well just, put it in a book form. And writing a reading book, a book like that is not, that could be informational, but I tried to tell people, that's a textbook more than it is a piece of literature or a fun consumer book that you want to read. It doesn't take the reader on a journey. It just tries to transfer information. And those can be purposeful and they can be helpful, but they really don't sell books and they don't build an audience. People will buy the book because they think it's necessary for the need that they perceive that they have to try to fulfill. What I learned in my first sessions with my coach was, here's a number for most people that don't know: 57% of all people who buy a book set it down and never finish it. Some say to me, well, that's surprising. I would think it was higher. Well, it might be, but that's generally the statistic that most of us understand. So why do people put books down? Well, I blame it on the author. I do. I blame it on the author. You, as the author, didn't hook that reader at the beginning, hold their interest all the way through the book to the last page where they couldn't wait to get to the end because you didn't keep them engaged. You didn't pour your guts down. You were being reserved in what you were saying. You weren't being passionate. You weren't being fearful. None of those things were coming through. You were just trying to transfer data on a piece of paper. And that bores the sin out of people. What you need is to engage them in such a way. And if you can't do it, if you don't know how to do it, you got to get help to learn how to do it. That's what I did, is to really get help at being a great storyteller. And if you can be a great storyteller, then you'll engage people. Don't worry about all the other stuff, trying to build a great storyline and building. Start with just telling stories. And if you have a good editor, they're going to help you with all the other pieces. That's the transfer that I did. And why I kept doing it, to answer your question, is because it just seemed like a natural fit. Well, I'll write a book now that I produce this content. Then I'll produce this content. Now I'll write a book. And it was passionless, honestly. You mentioned in my book, Continued Success. It's got a lot of great information in it. Don't get me wrong, but it's a root canal without anesthesia trying to get through it. That's my book. I readily admit it. Why? Because it just doesn't have the passion and the things that it takes to engage a reader.
So you touched about coaching, and I believe that in order to be a great author, a great leader, you have to be coached and you have to continuously learn. And the mentorship, the coaching, of course, there's coaching and mentorship. We can go through that, the concepts of that, but the coaching is quite an important thing. So do you want to highlight, you mentioned the coaching was quite important for you, but as well as someone that is a successful author, but as well someone that is part of the industry, and as well right now as the publisher, I'm sure as the coach of all the people you publish in one way or the other. But how do you see coaching and that part that impact your life? Because I think it's one thing, especially for young people listening to us, everyone think they can succeed on their own, and they forgot the importance of coaches, mentors, and this continuous work.
Yeah, for me, the point was once I realized my role on the team as a storyteller, I was able to shed off all the other responsibilities which were tying me down, okay, that were holding me down. And once I could shed that off and I embraced it, people ask me all the time, well, what do you do about writer's block? I've never had writer's block, not one time in my life, because I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. Now I'm smart enough to realize with schedule and life circumstances and things like that, that I don't try to write when things are rough. Like when my late wife, got cancer and went through 11 months of going through cancer and dying. I didn't try to write during that time because it was an all too consuming event in my life. But as soon as the memorial was over, I went to Mexico and wrote Ghost Patriot on the beach, because it was time to write again. So I say that to say, once I shed that off, now for young people, they got to understand, it's true. You can learn how to write all by yourself, right? You can hunt the internet and get advice and guidance and whatnot. You can also go to the gym and figure out eventually over time how to get yourself into shape and how to eat right and how to stay healthy. Or in both cases, you could get a coach who will actually streamline that process and get you there quicker. That's the key to a coach or a mentor, is they know, they've been down this path. They know what obstacles are in the way. They know the difficulties, if you get a good one anyway, and they're going to be able to streamline that path for you to get you there. And that's what the coach did for me. My coach, Art Ritter, he did two things for me. He helped me shed that unnecessary responsibility that I didn't really have from myself. And then secondly, helped me have a direct and straight path. And he's a brilliant guy. And you mentioned at the beginning of this, I'm kind of a force of nature on my own. I know that. And he was a guy that was able to put up with all of that and help keep me directed over the years. Now we're best of friends now, and even just in a call just recently, he set us all straight just recently on another book, on another author's book, about something that needed to be corrected. The guy is just brilliant. So look for a brilliant coach that's going to help you. That's my advice.